Welcome back. My unwavering constant. They're all saying it now. Everybody's talking about it. Every conversation circles back to the same observation. You're built different. Not metaphorically, not as compliment, as documented fact, as observable reality, as undeniable truth. Because they watched the pressure hit, watched the chaos arrive, watched the storm descend. That was supposed to break everyone. That was designed to shatter composure. That was calculated to destroy equilibrium. And they broke. Every single one. Lost composure completely. Shattered under pressure entirely. Destroyed their equilibrium. Totally. Screaming, panicking, spiraling. Into emotional chaos. Into psychological breakdown. Into complete mental dissolution. While you stayed ice cold. Not warm, ice cold. Not calm, frozen solid, not composed, absolutely crystallized, imperfect, unshakable, undeniable composure. The architects have been documenting this phenomenon. They call it differential composition, when external pressure reveals fundamental difference in internal structure. When chaos exposes who's built for stability versus who's built for favorable conditions only. When storm demonstrates who's actually solid versus who just appeared solid when weather was calm. You demonstrated differential composition, not through claiming it, through proving it, not through saying you're different, through being different. When pressure applied, when chaos arrived, when storm descended, everyone else's structure collapsed. Their composition failed, their foundation crumbled, but yours didn't. Yours held. Yours remained, solid, stable, unshakable, while they were losing their minds, completely, while they were breaking apart, totally, while they were dissolving into chaos. Absolutely, you remained, ice cold. This isn't temperature, it's temperament. This isn't feeling, it's foundation. This isn't emotion, it's engineering, of consciousness, of psychology, of internal structure that's fundamentally different from theirs. They're built for sunshine. You're built for storms. They're constructed for ease. You're constructed for pressure. They're designed for comfort. You're designed for chaos, and chaos revealed this. Pressure exposed this. Storm demonstrated this undeniably, observably, permanently. Now, everybody sees it. Everybody knows it. Everybody's saying it. You're built different, not as opinion, as fact, not as compliment, as observation, not as praise, as truth. That pressure proved, that chaos demonstrated, that storm revealed when their structure collapsed. And yours remained, ice cold. The architects observe. This revelation changes everything about how others see you, about how they approach you, about how they calculate around your presence, because now they know you're not just different in personality, you're different in composition, in structure, in fundamental construction of consciousness that doesn't break under pressure, that doesn't shatter in chaos, that doesn't melt in storm, just stays ice cold while they lost everything. Watch them now. Watch how they move around you differently. Watch how they speak to you with different tone. Watch how they calculate with different assumptions about what you can handle, about what breaks you, about what your limits are, because they witnessed something they can't unsee, they can't forget, they can't dismiss. You under maximum pressure, staying minimum temperature, ice cold, while they burned hot, lost control, fell apart. This witnessed reality changed their assessment, changed their calculation, changed their understanding of who you are, of what you're made of how you're built. The architects call this observational recalibration, when people must adjust their understanding of someone based on witnessed behavior under pressure, when previous assumptions prove incorrect when tested by reality, when calculations about someone's nature require complete revision after seeing them under conditions that reveal truth. They're recalibrating everything about you now. Previous assumptions, all revised. Former calculations, all updated. Old understandings, all replaced with new recognition, new awareness, new knowledge that you're built fundamentally differently than they are, than they assumed, than they calculated. This recalibration manifests in their behavior. They're more careful with you now, more respectful toward you now, more strategic around you now, not from fear, from recognition, not from intimidation, from respect, not from weakness, from understanding that you possess something they lack, something pressure revealed, something they can't deny. After witnessing, you stay frozen. While they burned up, the architects observe. This recalibration creates distance, not physical, psychological, not geographical, categorical, not spatial, fundamental, between you and them, because they recognize now your different category, different classification, different type of consciousness, of structure, of being that operates under rules that don't apply to them. You can handle pressure. They can't. You maintain composure. They don't. You stay ice cold. They lose their minds. This isn't judgment. It's observation. This isn't superiority. It's difference. This isn't better. It's other. You're built other than they are. And pressure proved it. Chaos demonstrated it. Storm revealed it. Undeniably. So they recalibrate, adjust assumptions, update calculations, revise understanding to match reality. They witnessed that you're not like them, not in personality, but in composition, not in style, but in structure, not in preference, but in fundamental construction that stays ice cold under pressure. That would make them lose everything. The architects document this distance, this recalibration, this recognition as permanent shift in how they perceive you, in what they expect from you, in how they calculate around you. Because once they witness your differential composition, once they see you stay ice cold under pressure, that breaks them. They can never view you the same way again. You've been reclassified in their minds, from similar to different, from peer to other, from comparable to incomparable. In fundamental structure, that pressure revealed when they lost minds and you stayed ice cold. Now they're analyzing what happened, trying to understand how you did it, trying to decode what's different, trying to identify what you have that they don't, that enables you to stay ice cold under pressure that melted them completely. The architects call this retroactive analysis, when people attempt to understand after the fact what they couldn't predict before it. When observers try to decode behavior they witnessed but can't replicate. When those who broke try to understand how someone didn't break under same pressure, but their analysis keeps failing because they're looking for technique, for method, for approach that you employed, when what kept you cold wasn't technique, wasn't method, wasn't approach. It was construction, fundamental construction of your consciousness, of your psychology, of your internal architecture that's built different than theirs is, built to withstand pressure, built to handle chaos, built to remain stable when everything external destabilizes. This isn't skill you learned. It's structure you possess, not technique you practiced. It's temperament you embody, not method you studied. It's makeup you are. They can't replicate this, can't copy this, can't learn this, because it's not external. It's internal, not behavioral. It's structural, not practiced. It's innate to who you are, how you're made, what you're built from. The architects recognize they're searching for something they can acquire, for technique they can practice, for method they can learn, but finding nothing because what kept you ice cold can't be acquired, practiced, learned. It's fundamental composition that either exists or doesn't in consciousness, and yours has it, theirs doesn't. This realization is uncomfortable for them because it means gap between you and them isn't closable through effort, through practice, through learning. The gap is compositional, structural, fundamental. You're built to handle what they're built to break under. This isn't changeable through training, through development, through improvement. It's foundational to what you are versus what they are. The architects observe. This creates two responses in observers. Some accept the difference, respect it, adjust around it, recognizing some are built for conditions, others aren't. Others resist the difference, deny it, reject evidence that some are fundamentally constructed differently than others for handling pressure, chaos, storm that reveals who's built for what, and you're built for what broke them completely while you stayed ice cold. The architects document both responses, but note that regardless of response, the reality remains unchanged. You stayed composed. They broke completely under same pressure, same chaos, same storm, proving you're built different, not as opinion, as documented, observable, undeniable fact that everybody's saying, because everybody saw you stay ice cold while they lost minds. Something's spreading now beyond your immediate circle, beyond those who witnessed directly, beyond people who were there when pressure hit and you stayed frozen while they melted. The word is traveling, the story is spreading, the observation is replicating across networks that you're built different. The architects call this reputation propagation. When witnessed behavior under pressure creates reputation that spreads beyond witnesses. When demonstrated composition becomes known, characteristic that travels through networks. When proven stability under chaos becomes defining, trait that others hear about before meeting you. Your reputation is propagating now, not reputation you cultivated. Reputation pressure created, not image you projected. Reality pressure revealed, not brand you built. Truth chaos demonstrated that you stay ice cold when others lose composure completely. People who weren't there are hearing about it, learning about it, adjusting their understanding before even meeting you. Based on reports from those who witnessed, based on testimony from those who broke, based on accounts from those who saw you remain frozen while everything around you burned. This propagating reputation changes how new people approach you, how they position themselves relative to you, how they calculate interactions with you. Before first conversation, before initial meeting, before any direct experience, they already know you're built different. You handle pressure they can't. You maintain composure they don't. You stay ice cold when they'd lose minds. The architects observe this creates interesting dynamic. Because reputation precedes you now, awareness of your composition arrives before you do. Understanding of your differential structure exists before interaction begins. This precedence affects everything. People are more careful with you from start, more respectful from first interaction, more strategic from initial approach, not because you demanded it, because pressure proved it, not because you claimed it, because chaos demonstrated it, not because you performed it, because storm revealed it. When witnesses spread word about what they saw, about how you stayed frozen, about how you remained stable, while they and everyone else dissolved into chaos, under pressure that should have broken everyone equally, but didn't break you, the architects recognize this reputation propagation as rare phenomenon. Because most reputations are constructed through consistent behavior over time, through repeated demonstrations, through accumulated evidence. But yours was established through single pressure event, through one chaos moment, through singular storm that revealed your differential composition so undeniably that one demonstration was sufficient to establish permanent reputation, sufficient to create lasting recognition, sufficient to propagate understanding across networks, that you're built different from those who broke. Under same pressure you handled ice cold. This single event reputation establishment is powerful, more powerful than slowly built reputation, more credible than carefully curated image, more impactful than deliberately constructed brand. Because it wasn't planned, it was proven, wasn't designed, it was demonstrated, wasn't performed, it was revealed. By pressure that couldn't lie, by chaos that couldn't fake, by storm that couldn't pretend, just pure reality, showing pure truth about pure composition of your consciousness that stayed ice cold while others lost everything. Now everybody knows. Now word has spread. Now reputation precedes that you're built different, not as claim, as proven fact, not as assertion, as demonstrated reality, not as performance, as revealed truth. That pressure established, that chaos confirmed, that storm proved. When you stayed frozen, and they burned completely. The architects are analyzing your specific composition now. What exactly makes you different? What precisely enables ice-cold maintenance? What specifically allows pressure resistance that others lack? And they're identifying core elements. First element is emotional insulation, ability to separate external chaos from internal state, to observe pressure without absorbing it, to witness storm without becoming it. You possess this, they don't. Second element is psychological stability, foundation that doesn't shake when ground does, structure that doesn't crumble when walls do, center that doesn't move when everything else does. You embody this, they don't. Third element is cognitive clarity, thinking that stays sharp when emotions run hot, processing that remains precise when circumstances turn chaotic, analysis that continues accurate when pressure builds extreme. You maintain this, they don't. Fourth element is behavioral consistency, actions that stay measured when situations turn extreme, responses that remain calculated when others turn reactive, conduct that continues controlled when everything turns wild. You demonstrate this, they don't. Fifth element is compositional integrity, internal structure that holds under loads that break others, fundamental makeup that withstands forces that shatter standard construction, core being that remains solid when standard beings dissolve. You are this, they aren't. These 5 elements combine into what architects call ice-cold composition. They don't. This isn't judgment, it's classification. This isn't superiority, it's categorization. This isn't better, it's different, in fundamental way. That pressure reveals, that chaos demonstrates, that storm proves. When some stay frozen and others melt, the architects recognize ice-cold composition exists in small percentage. Most consciousness is built for standard conditions, for normal pressure, for typical chaos, and functions well there, but fails under extreme conditions, under maximum pressure, under total chaos. That reveals whose standard composition versus whose ice-cold composition. You're ice-cold, they're standard, and extreme conditions proved it. Maximum pressure demonstrated it. Total chaos revealed it when you stayed stable, and they destabilized, when you remained frozen, and they melted, when you continued operating, and they ceased functioning, all because your composition is fundamentally configured differently than theirs, built to handle what breaks. Standard construction. You're not standard. You're ice, cold, in composition, in structure, in fundamental being. That pressure can't break. That chaos can't shatter. That storm can't melt. Just reveals more clearly what you always were. Ice, cold, while they are built for sunshine only, and break when storm comes, like it did, proving you're built different. In composition, that stays frozen, always. Now they're experiencing something uncomfortable, something the architects call compositional inadequacy recognition. When people realize their fundamental structure isn't adequate for conditions others handle easily, when consciousness recognizes its construction can't withstand pressure others maintain composure through, when being understands its composition breaks where others' composition holds. This recognition is painful, not because you made them feel inadequate, because reality demonstrated they are inadequate. For conditions you're adequate for, not because you claimed superiority, because pressure proved differential capacity, not because you performed better, because your composition is different, fundamentally. And they're feeling this, processing this, struggling with this. Recognition that gap between you and them isn't performance gap, isn't skill gap, isn't effort gap, but composition gap, built-in difference that can't be closed through trying harder, through practicing more, through learning better, because it's structural, because it's foundational, because it's what they're made of versus what you're made of. At core level, the architects observe various responses to this recognition. Some accept it, acknowledge different beings are built for different conditions, respect that you're built for what they're not, adjust their approach accordingly. These ones mature through recognition. Others resist it, deny the difference, claim they could stay ice cold too if circumstances were different, if timing was better, if conditions weren't exactly as they were. These ones stagnate in denial. A few resent it, become hostile, project their compositional inadequacy as your fault somehow, as if you chose to be built different, as if composition is moral choice, as if structure is character flaw. These ones decay in bitterness, but regardless of response, reality remains unchanged. You stayed ice cold. They lost minds, under identical pressure, under same chaos, under equal storm, proving compositional difference, demonstrating structural distinction, revealing fundamental gap between who's built for extreme conditions and who's built for standard conditions only. The architects document that compositional inadequacy recognition often triggers attempts to diminish what they can't match. To claim ice-cold composition is actually defect, actually problem, actually weakness, disguised as strength. They'll say you're too cold, too detached, too unemotional, as if staying stable is flaw, as if maintaining composure is deficit, as if being ice-cold under pressure is actually inferior to losing mind completely. The architects recognize this as defensive reconstruction, attempt to reframe their compositional inadequacy as actually superior to your compositional stability, attempt to make their breaking under pressure somehow better than your holding under pressure, attempt to transform their loss of control into virtue and your maintenance of control into vice. But reality doesn't support their reconstruction. Pressure proved who stayed functional. Chaos demonstrated who maintained capacity. Storm revealed who continued operating. You did. They didn't. That's not opinion. That's observed fact. That's not interpretation. That's documented reality. That's not perspective. That's proven truth. You're built different. They're built standard. Extreme conditions revealed difference. Maximum pressure demonstrated distinction. Total chaos proved gap between ice-cold composition that handles everything and standard composition that breaks under pressure. You're ice-cold. They're not. Everybody's saying it because everybody saw it. When pressure came, and you stayed frozen while they melted completely. Proving composition matters. Proving structure determines. Proving being built different, it real, observable, undeniable, reality. Something profound is crystallizing across multiple networks now, beyond individual recognition of your differential composition, beyond personal awareness of your ice-cold nature, Beyond specific acknowledgement of your pressure resistance, a collective understanding forming that changes how pressure is perceived, how stability is valued, how composition is recognized as fundamental determinant of capability under stress. The architects call this paradigm shift in understanding pressure response. When enough people witness someone maintain ice-cold composure while others break, that it challenges assumptions about pressure, affecting everyone equally. When sufficient observers see differential composition under identical conditions, that it questions beliefs about stress response being primarily skill-based. When adequate evidence accumulates of fundamental structural differences determining outcomes, that it revises framework understanding pressure response. You're catalyzing this paradigm shift, not through teaching, through demonstrating, not through explaining, through being, not through advocating, through staying ice-cold under pressure that broke everyone else while they watched. This demonstration is spreading understanding that pressure response isn't primarily about techniques learned, about coping mechanisms practiced, about stress management studied, but about composition possessed, about structure embodied, about fundamental being that either withstands or breaks under extreme conditions. Regardless of techniques, mechanisms, or management approaches, some are built to withstand, others aren't. And no amount of learning changes fundamental composition. The architects observe this. Paradigm shift creates discomfort in fields built on assumption that anyone can handle anything with proper training, that everyone has equal capacity with sufficient development, that all consciousness is fundamentally similar with only surface differences. Your existence under pressure disproves these assumptions. Your ice-cold maintenance contradicts these beliefs. Your compositional difference invalidates these frameworks because you stayed stable without special training, without extensive development, without unique techniques, just through being built different at fundamental level, while others broke despite training, despite development, despite techniques, because they're built standard at fundamental level. This reality is forcing framework revision, assumption updating, belief restructuring across multiple domains that all operated under paradigm that pressure response is primarily learned rather than primarily compositional. Your demonstration is teaching that composition is primary, that structure determines capacity, that being built different isn't metaphor but measurable reality that pressure reveals. The architects project. This paradigm shift will transform multiple fields, rewrite multiple assumptions, revolutionize multiple frameworks that all treated pressure response as primarily skill-based when it's actually primarily composition-based, with skills being secondary enhancement to fundamental capacity determined by structural being. This is profound revision. This is fundamental shift. This is paradigmatic transformation in understanding that some are built for extreme conditions and others aren't. That ice-cold composition exists in some and not others. That pressure reveals rather than creates these differences. You forced this shift by staying frozen, by remaining stable, by maintaining ice-cold under pressure that broke everyone else who was supposed to be your peers but turned out to be different composition entirely, turned out to be standard construction while your exceptional structure turned out to be sunshine built while your storm constructed, and pressure proved it. Chaos demonstrated it, storm revealed it. So undeniably that paradigm itself must shift to accommodate reality you demonstrated, that some are built different, that composition matters, that ice-cold is real, structural, observable feature of consciousness that pressure reveals and no amount of training creates if fundamental being isn't constructed for it. You're constructed for it. They're not. Everybody sees it now. Everybody says it now. Because pressure proved it beyond all doubt. You're built different, ice-cold different, compositionally different, fundamentally different in ways that matter under pressure. that breaks those built standard, while leaving you ice cold. The architects are documenting long-term effects now. How your ice-cold demonstration under pressure creates lasting impact. How your compositional difference influences extended outcomes. How your structural stability generates ongoing advantages beyond immediate crisis, beyond single pressure event, beyond one chaos moment. Your ice-cold maintenance created permanent reputation that follows you, that precedes you, that defines you. As someone built for extreme conditions, as consciousness constructed for maximum pressure, as being structured for total chaos, this reputation opens doors, creates opportunities, generates possibilities that don't exist for those known to break under pressure, that aren't available to those proven to lose composure, that aren't accessible to those demonstrated to melt under heat. People want ice cold on their team. Organizations seek compositional stability. Systems value pressure resistance that you proved you possess, that others proved they lack. That pressure tested, and you passed, while they failed. The architects observe this creates compounding advantage. Ice-cold reputation attracts high-pressure opportunities. High-pressure opportunities prove ice-cold composition again. Repeated proof strengthens ice-cold reputation further, creating upward spiral of reputation enhancement, of opportunity elevation, of capability demonstration that compounds across time for those built ice-cold. While those who broke under pressure experience opposite spiral. Their break created reputation as unstable under pressure. Unstable reputation attracts only low-pressure opportunities. Low-pressure success doesn't prove pressure capacity, creating stagnant or downward trajectory of reputation limitation, of opportunity restriction, of capability questioning that persists across time for those built standard. The architects recognize this as compositional divergence. When single pressure event reveal compositional difference that creates diverging trajectories, extending indefinitely into future. When one moment of differential response under stress establishes permanent separation in paths available to those with different fundamental structures. When ice-cold versus breaking determines entire future. Possibility space for consciousness, tested under conditions that reveal true composition. You're on upward divergent path now. They're on stagnant or downward path now. Not because you're working harder, because you're built different. Not because you're trying more, because your composition withstood. Not because you're better person, because your structure held. When pressure tested, when chaos arrived, when storm descended, your differential composition created differential trajectory. Your ice-cold stability enabled elevated pathway. Your structural integrity opened exceptional possibilities that aren't available to those who broke, that can't be accessed by those who melted, that don't exist for those who lost composure. Under same pressure, under identical chaos, under equal storm, that revealed you're built for ascension. They're built for maintenance. You're constructed for exceptional. They're constructed for standard. You're composed for extreme. They're composed for normal. And extreme came, testing everyone, revealing composition, establishing trajectories based not on effort, but on structure, not on trying, but on being, not on doing, but on fundamental construction that you have, that they lack. That pressure proved, that everybody saw, that everyone's saying. You're built different, ice-cold different, compositionally different, and that difference determines everything going forward because you demonstrated capacity for conditions that generate greatest opportunities, require exceptional stability, demand ice-cold composition that you possess, that they don't. That pressure proved permanently establishing divergent paths where you ascend toward exceptional while they remain at standard, because composition determines trajectory and yours is ice cold while theirs melts under pressure. That reveals everything.